What's up, internet world, and welcome back to the channel. Today I bring you the 2020 Cadillac CT5-V. All right, so we're gonna try launch control here. So race, active handling off, brakes all the way down, gas all the way down. There it is. Activate, let go of the brake. 1, 2, 3. From the Cardigan boys that brought you the DeVille, the Seville, and the Eldorado, they have brought us the Cadillac CT5-V, or are they the Cardigan boys? So I first want to address the elephant in the room because this has been polarizing to me. When I check this car online, and every review I've read and every press publication, they tell me this car compares against the 3 Series, the C-Class, and the Audi A4 S4 series. But that is a lie, because this car does not compare with those. And yes, Cadillac, that is the elephant in the room, not the car itself, but your branding of this car. This car is actually designed to go against the E-Class. Yes, the E-Class. How can it be? Well, let me tell you how. This wheelbase from end to end is 116 inches. And guess what the E-Class is? 116 inches. Guess what the 5 Series is? 117 inches. And the length, you ask? 194 inches. The E-Class? 194 inches. And the BMW 5 Series, 194.7 inches. Based on those numbers, this car is the same size as those cars, not the 3 Series, the C-Class, or the 4 Series from Audi. Those cars are 185 inches in length, 185, 194. You see where I'm getting at? Marketing. This car was marketed to the wrong people. So there's a lot of controversy online about why they released the CT5-V and not the real V first, which they're gonna call next year the Black Wing or Black Hawk or Black Bird, like the original motorcycle from Honda. Anyways, why did they release this car and not that first? And that is because they brought the CT6 out first. So they brought the big boy out first, then they brought the 2 little ones, the 5 and the 4V. Yes, Mike, but why? And I explained a little bit in depth in the CT4 video I did last week, and that is because of marketing. They have to push out a vehicle that doesn't produce that kind of horsepower because nobody buys it. It's a low volume product. It's a halo piece, which they will bring out next year. And as I said in my other video, you guys better buy the Blackwing when it arrives. And yes, because the original V had 640 horsepower out of a supercharged V8, and this is a twin turbo V6 that makes 360 horsepower. You're saying that is almost 300 horsepower less. How, why, who was making these decisions? But the people making the decisions decided to make this car a lot better looking than the original V, because look at this thing. Now granted, different cars look better with different colors, and this car doesn't look that great in white, I don't think. It needs a darker color. I really like the way this front end looks. I just like Cadillac's new design. This is clean, it's crisp, it's smooth. I really like it. What do you guys think? I really like the way Cadillac does their headlights. This is a nice piece. Now I know you have to have this really annoying orange amber light here, but this going from white to orange is awesome. You don't have an orange in the background when the car is off or these lights are not illuminated. I like that piece. Also, I do like the fact, obviously, they've put black everywhere. This is a V car, so there's black everywhere. They've brought black from the end all the way through the lower valence. It does have a lot of nice pieces. You would think Cadillac would make this a little bit bigger. They have this inlet that actually does work, but these brakes are massive. They need to make this a little bit bigger to actually let people know that this is totally functional, not this little tiny gap that they've left here. Make the whole thing for brakes. Even put a sign saying brake entry air here. All right, so under the hood we have a twin turbo V6 3-liter that puts out 360 horsepower and 405 foot-pounds of torque. And they even have this little V badging over here that looks like checkered flagish. So this has a base price of $49,000 in a rear-wheel drive form, or in an all-wheel drive at $51,000. And if you think about it, the original CT5-V had a starting price of $88,000. That is crazy how much more expensive that car was. Seriously speaking, on the inside of the engine bay, there's a lot of craftsmanship that is clean and quality. It was never this way in domestic product. On the inside of the engine, nobody ever looked at it. But they have clean, finished towers. Everything's tight, everything's put together. There's not a lot of space. I've always seen domestic product where you can fit another engine in the engine compartment, but there's actually no space in here. It's tightly wound in, and like the CT4, I like that. So because this car propels from 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, I'm happy to say that this does have Michelin Pilot Sports. Thank you. I love these tires. Best tires ever. Michelin Pilot Sports. I like you. I like that the fact this car has black all the way around. But Ellie, we got to bring you out because this is called the Hofmeister Kink. And no, this is not David Hasselhoff in Baywatch. And that was named after the BMW engineer that marketed that piece. Now, GM was actually one of the first ones to have it in 1949. This little thing is called the Hofmeister Kink, if you guys didn't know that. But here at Accelerate, we've got a new name for it, and it's called Massive Blind Spot. If you look really close, you will see that this says CTS. Take a look. CTS. Obviously, it's not a real CTS-V. It's a CT5-V. Tuh. This is the world's smallest Thule box. Have you guys seen this thing? Look at it. It's huge. I like how they've retrofitted a camera in the Thule box. That is great. And you don't have to buy this from parts. This comes standard with the car. It fit all kinds of luggage. When we're talking about quality, we're talking about other products, right? Maybe. But look at this, guys. This is really interesting. Even BMW doesn't do this. Look at the fit and finish of the seam weld right here. All the way through, it's clean. It doesn't have a piece of plastic running from end to end like BMW does in their 3 Series. Don't believe me? Look at the 3 Series. It's got a piece of plastic from end to end because the seam weld is not clean. And this one is. And coming from a company like General Motors that makes general cars for masses and the public, they don't really put all their money in the luxury department, but they have. So have they cheapened out or have they not cheapened out? So in the back here, we've got quad exhausts that look straight out of a AMG 63. What do you guys think? I think so. They look beastly. I love the way they look. I like this unique diffuser. I like the way it's played in, and I do like this brake light. It's not a brake light, it's a reverse light. When you put the car in reverse, there's no white light that comes from here. That is the reverse light. Pretty cool. And speaking of exhaust, let's hear how this thing sounds. So the back of the car follows the front of the car with this sort of shark fin design that centers out. Because this has a really long rear glass, it's got a really short entry when it comes to the trunk. So short entry, but it is deep for sure. Again, the one thing I didn't like about the CT4 in terms of the trunk, there's no way to pop these seats down from the back here. Also, there's nothing to hang shopping bags. Another piece Ellie wants to point out is this little slot for an SD card. And that is because it has a recorder, a camera recorder, so you can record what happens out there. Except you have to plug it in the back here. So one quick fail, in my opinion, is the door handles. The door handles, they've put a piece of rubber right behind, so I gotta push it for me to open. This does absolutely nothing because I cannot pull it. At night, it looks pretty awesome with the light, but here's the fail. You see in the front, you've got a little cool Cadillac emblem I can press to lock the car. But in the back, I don't have that. And that is because the front ones are the only ones that are active. You see, the back one does absolutely nothing. I can unlock the car from the back, but I cannot lock it in the back. I can only lock it in the front. So just a few things I want to point out in the back of this car. When you get in, because of the design of the car, this is very short. So if you're short, you're fine. But if you're tall, not fine. In the back of the car though, once I sit in it, this seat has been sunken down for me to have that space. There's a ton of leg room, just not a ton of headroom. As far as fit and finish in the back, I would say it's decent. It just checks the bill off. There's a ton of speakers. Now, in terms of plumbed in sound, when you're accelerating, it's actually done in the rear speakers. So when you hear the sound, it's coming from the back, which is pretty different actually, because a lot of cars have it in the front speaker, so you hear it and it feels strange. This one, because it's coming from the back, it feels a lot more natural. All right, so we're jumping in the Cadillac CT5-V. And first thing I noticed, it's pretty much exactly the same seats as the CT4-V we reviewed last week. In terms of interior, it pretty much looks exactly the same, except this screen is larger. It's a 10-inch screen, and I also noticed that in the back here, we've got 2 automatic rear windows. So not just the front 2, you have the back 2 as well. They have changed the placement of the center console a little bit when it comes to this car versus the CT4-V, as you'll see in the other video, but everything else is pretty much exactly the same. They have added recorder, and they have added this Alcantara steering wheel, but also they've actually put Alcantara in the back of the shifter, which a lot of people did not notice. They thought it was rubber, but this Alcantara all the way in the back. Nice touch. I would have liked to see Alcantara on the ceiling because you were spending lots of money on this car. Now, I talked about the SD card in the back for the video recorder, but they have an SD card here, and this SD card you can push out and it says Maps for North America. They could have easily put the Maps for North America here, as well as Recorder for Car in here. One thing this car has that's unique is that it has cooled seats on this leather. This isn't Napa leather, but the leather is actually the softest leather you can get for cooled seats. You see, any leather that's softer will actually not have the integrity to have little tiny perforations through, but these seats and this leather does have that. So one of the things that make this car unique against its competitors is the fact that you can remote start the car. But you can also go in the setup in the menu and remote start the car with cooled seats on and heat seats on, which is pretty sweet. Now, this is a 2020 model, and we have the analog gauges, which I'm not a huge fan of. I do like analog gauges in really sporty, crazy cars because you can see that, and it's pretty awesome to see as opposed to just a number that skips in increments of 10. But next year, in the 2021 version, they will have a fully digital cluster. So one thing they brought into this car, which I do like, is I like the 360 camera setup, and this rear mirror actually shows you what's behind there. It's actually hidden in the Thule box I showed you guys earlier. And this car features something called the Power of 3. Now, they've got 3 volume controls. Volume control down here, they've got a volume control up here, and they have a volume control right on the steering wheel. They also have the Power of 3 when it comes to tuning. They've got tuning down here, they've got tuning up here, and tuning right on the steering wheel. They even have the Power of 3 when it comes to the V symbol. They've got V right on the sill, they've got V on the carpet, and they've got V right here on the dash. They even have the Power of 3 on the cluster. They've got the speedometer as 0 in the bottom, a 0 on the top, and 0 on the heads-up display. That, my friends, is the Power of 3. One thing they need to provide you in this vehicle when you buy it is a microfiber cloth, because this screen gets mad dusty. It's so mad dusty that they've actually made this texture have dust in it. It's so flaky that you can see dust in it, but it's not dusty, it's part of the trim, because they would have put carbon fiber right here as opposed to carbon fiber right there. Carbon fiber everywhere, except for this piece right here, is dusty. Enough about practicality. Let's jump in the car and let's test out this 10 speed and the 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. All right, so let's put this puppy into drive. Let's go to mode, let's go to track, because that's the only way these cars should be driven. Exhaust sounds good, legit. A little bit of back end movement, I like it. It's rear wheel biased, and the pop is nice. Acceleration, foot to the ground. Oh, that sounds good. Pulls well. Paddles, again, because this has 10 speed, it is delayed. I really like this Alcantara steering wheel. Speaking of steering wheels, this must be the world's hottest steering wheel. I've got the heated steering wheel on for like 40 seconds. And performance shift active. And when I put the heated steering wheel button on, okay, performance shift active. Why can't I manually have that? Why do you have to put it on for me? 10-speed gearbox, you are confusing me. Anyway, so the heated steering wheel gets really, really hot. It's like the start of winter. I think today's the first day of winter because it is freezing today. But the steering wheel, it gets so hot that I gotta shut it off. So this is the hottest steering wheel. Along with the world using hand sanitizer now, this Alcantara steering wheel is gonna get beat up. Imagine, hand sanitizer, Alcantara steering wheel, hand sanitizer, Alcantara steering wheel. It's the way we live now. It's the way we live. Sounds good though, right? Sounds good. I'm gonna zip it. Zip it. All right, foot to the ground, right turn. All-wheel drive. So think about this. It's good. It's good. I like it. I like it. Just think about this, that this is compared to an Audi S4, but this is larger than an S4. As I mentioned, this is closer to an A6 size of car, and it's light. So it obviously is more magnified if I would tell you that the CT4V is actually compared to the S4, and you'd think, wow, that drives like a smaller car than it actually is, because this definitely drives more nimble than an A6 and a 5 Series. And now it's holding the gear. I couldn't get the CT4V to hold the gear like this. Same transmission though. So this center cluster has an extra V mode, and if I go into the V mode, besides the V mode on the button, but it does have like a performance timer, it has lap timer, coolant temperature, oil pressure, transmission fluid, tire temperature, and an ELSD coupling. Now on the 4V, it's mechanical, so you can't see it what's happening, but this is electronic, so you can actually see the coupling on this. So what I'm gonna do is performance shift active. I'm gonna try to not launch it because it's difficult to get this car to launch. So if I press this button here to activate the launch control, okay, I got it, there we go. Performance traction dry, active handling wet, dry, sport 1, sport 2, race, foot on the brake completely, hit the gas, and go. Oh, front lift's hard. Shifts at 5950, just under 6,000 RPM. What is with, I mean, awesome. Great acceleration, great traction. I wasn't even looking at the ELSD coupling percentages, but I was more focused on the shifting points. It shifts at 5950. I just find that hilarious because the cluster actually in this one redlines at 6250. Let me redline to 6250, not 5950. I feel like there's some tuning abilities here. Great brakes. Great brakes. This thing's got e-boost on brakes. I'm not sure the technical features of it, but I know that when you come from a stop and you just move forward a hair and then you hit the brakes again, it's like direct. But even at faster speeds, you want to come to a quicker stop or you want to slow down, bring your speed down, great brakes. So the suspension is soft, even though it is in track mode, it's pretty soft. It's got magnetic ride, as I said, the 4th edition. So it's just, that is what makes this car. The mag ride is what makes this car. Great balanced car. The chassis and the suspension of this car is awesome. All right, so if I wanted to go into launch control here, I would have to press a button to activate it. And that button is the stability program button. So you have to press it twice to activate it. And first time is a charm. Look, I got it. And then I go use the mode button. So I got performance traction wet, dry, sport 1, sport 2, or race. So if I wanted to enable launch control, I leave it in this mode. I hit the brakes all the way down, hit the throttle. It makes a Woody Woodpecker sound, and I let go of the brakes, and we get that. Now, the other thing I did notice is this car actually sits higher than the CT4V or its other competitors. It does sit a little bit higher, more like an executive saloon type gap between the wheels, It just feels like a smaller car. And that is effectively what you want. You want to feel like you're in a small car, and then when you turn your head, you see kids in the back. I think because the comparison is wrong with this car, the impressions that people get are misguided. And if I jumped out of a M340 and jumped into this, and I said, you know what? Yes, the M340 is quicker off the line. The engine is more raspy. It's more aggressive. It's a work of art. It's an M car, almost an M car. But listen. If that is not good enough for you in a car that is the size of an E-Class, then you're absorbing the wrong information, because this is not compared to a 340. So you can't get out of a 340, get into this and say, well, your 340 is better, because it's not the same thing. And that is Cadillac's fault, because they targeted this car and they put the same people that drove that car into this car. And it's close, but this is a bigger car.